Okay, good morning, everyone. Good to see you all here. We are gathering here on a Monday morning, not usually here on a Monday morning, but it's a special week for us. It's our Career Focus Week. And so we kick off that week with a special assembly. And we have a special speaker here for you and plan on doing a lot of great things just to assist you and help you with the career focus we're doing this week. I think most of you know this is an event that we do every 2 years where we explore careers and then take the opportunity to send out our juniors and seniors to different companies and organizations just to get a feel for what careers they may or may not be interested in. So we're doing all that this week, and it should be a fun and exciting week. Now, as you all know from the promotional posters and a lot of the information that's gone out, we choose a theme for this week. And this year, the theme we have chosen, you can see it behind me on the screen, I think, yeah, is Guardian Grit, the Power of Passion and Perseverance. And we did an early introduction to this theme last week when we recognized different students every day last week for their Guardian Grit. So when we talk about grit, what is it exactly that we're talking about? And we referenced Angela Duckworth, a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, who has been promoting this idea of grit, and it's part of what we latched on to speak about this week. So we have a TED Talk that Professor Duckworth did, and so just to introduce you to this idea of grit, we're going to let Professor Duckworth introduce that for you.
When I was 27 years old, I left a very demanding job in management consulting for a job that was even more demanding, teaching. I went to teach 7th graders math in the New York City public schools. And like any teacher, I made quizzes and tests, I gave out homework assignments. When the work came back, I calculated grades. What struck me was that IQ was not the only difference between my best and my worst students. Some of my strongest performers did not have stratospheric IQ scores. Some of my smartest kids weren't doing so well. And that got me thinking. The kinds of things you need to learn in 7th grade math, sure, they're hard. Ratios, decimals, the area of a parallelogram. But these concepts are not impossible. And I was firmly convinced that every one of my students could learn the material if they worked hard and long enough. After several more years of teaching, I came to the conclusion that what we need in education is a much better understanding of students and learning from a motivational perspective, from a psychological perspective. In education, the one thing we know how to measure best is IQ. But what if doing well in school and in life depends on much more than your ability to learn quickly and easily? So I left the classroom and I went to graduate school to become a psychologist. I started studying kids and adults in all kinds of super challenging settings. And in every study, my question was, who is successful here and why? My research team and I went to West Point Military Academy. We tried to predict which cadets would stay in military training and which would drop out. We went to the National Spelling Bee and tried to predict which children would advance farthest in competition. We studied rookie teachers working in really tough neighborhoods, asking which teachers are still going to be here in teaching by the end of the school year. And of those, who will be the most effective at improving learning outcomes for their students? We partnered with private companies asking which of these salespeople is going to keep their jobs and who's going to earn the most money. In all those very different contexts, one characteristic emerged as a significant predictor of success. And it wasn't social intelligence, it wasn't good looks, physical health, and it wasn't IQ. It was grit. Grit is passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. Grit is having stamina. Grit is sticking with your future, day in, day out, not just for the week, not just for the month, but for years, and working really hard to make that future a reality. Grit is living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint. A few years ago, I started studying grit in the Chicago public schools. I asked thousands of high school juniors to take grit questionnaires, and then waited around more than a year to see who would graduate. Turns out that grittier kids were significantly more likely to graduate, even when I matched them on every characteristic I could measure, things like family income, standardized achievement test scores, even how safe kids felt when they were at school. So it's not just at West Point or the National Spelling Bee that grit matters, it's also in school, especially for kids at risk for dropping out. To me, the most shocking thing about grit is how little we know, how little science knows about building it. Every day, parents and teachers ask me, how do I build grit in kids? What do I do to teach kids a solid work ethic? How do I keep them motivated for the long run? The honest answer is, I don't know. What I do know is that talent doesn't make you gritty. Our data show very clearly that there are many talented individuals who simply do not follow through on their commitments. In fact, in our data, grit is usually unrelated or even inversely related to measures of talent. So far, the best idea I've heard about building grit in kids is something called growth mindset. This is an idea developed at Stanford University by Carol Dweck, and it is the belief that the ability to learn is not fixed, that it can change with your effort. Dr. Dweck has shown that when kids read and learn about the brain and how it changes and grows in response to challenge, they're much more likely to persevere when they fail because they don't believe that failure is a permanent condition. So growth mindset is a great idea for building grit, but we need more. And that's where I'm going to end my remarks, because that's where we are. That's the work that stands before us. We need to take our best ideas, our strongest intuitions, and we need to test them. We need to measure whether we've been successful, and we have to be willing to fail, to be wrong, to start over again with lessons learned. In other words, we need to be gritty about getting our kids grittier. Thank you.
I'm sure Professor Duckworth appreciates the applause. Okay, so you got an explanation from Professor Duckworth about grit, and we're focusing on that this week in terms of career and career exploration, but when we talk about guardian grit, we're talking about more than just a successful career. We're talking about understanding values in life and things that you want to accomplish in life. You know, we have those guardian core values: community, integrity, service, leadership. Those are the things that you need to be gritty about as well. So while we're focusing on career this week, that guardian grit goes a little further than just career. It really is part of a lifestyle and a part of developing yourself, and for us as a school too. So my next pleasure is to be able to introduce to you, or begin to introduce to you, our special speaker for the day. Our special speaker today is Mr. Jim Paek. He's the director of the Korea Ice Hockey Association and head coach of the South Korean national hockey team, and a highly supportive yes parent. You can see some of his accomplishments listed there on the screen. Professional hockey player, played for the Penguins for a number of years, won the Stanley Cup twice, and the first person of Korean descent to first play in the NHL and then to have his name engraved on the Stanley Cup. So quite an accomplishment there. And as part of the introduction here for Mr. Paek, we have a newscast video that was done back in Michigan, and it gives you some good background to him, so we're going to show that clip at this time.
The Winter Olympic Games in Pyeongchang are now just 23 days away, and former Grand Rapids Griffins coach Jim Paek has been counting them down for now more than 4 years.
He's taking on a bigger challenge than most in South Korea. Larry Figursky is joining us now. And Larry, for Jim, this really is an Olympic project.
Yeah, it is, Sue, and a 4-year one at that. Jim lived here in Grand Rapids for nearly a decade, called the Lakeshore home back in the late 80s, but spent the past 4 years living in South Korea. In late 2013, Paek was named director of hockey operations and head coach of the South Korean national team. His task, get a team and a program that had never earned the right to even compete in the Olympics, ready to face the world's best. For all of Jim Paek's hockey accomplishments, and there have been many,
He scores! Jimmy Paek gets a goal in the Stanley Cup Final!
it's unlikely any could ever top this. What does it mean to you to be given, this responsibility in your home nation?
I'm very honored and very proud to represent Korea. I was born there, and representing your country, I'm so honored.
4 years ago, shortly after helping to lead the Grand Rapids Griffins to their first ever Calder Cup championship, Jim Paek was summoned home to his native South Korea.
I was commuting for 2 years. I'm going into my fourth.
Commuting from South Korea.
Yeah,
That's
so
a little. That's a little more than like Kalamazoo or something.
That was a tough commute, 16-hour flights. But I thought it was very important to keep my kids in school here.
Entrusted with building a hockey program essentially from the ground up to compete with the best teams in the world.
Here's an opportunity where you can put Korean hockey on the map, and to have that responsibility, that's fantastic. And so, we work extremely hard.
Born in Seoul, South Korea, Paek grew up in Canada and spent most of his adult and professional hockey life in the U.S., a majority of that in West Michigan.
This is home. Grand Rapids is home for us. I've been here 9 years. My children are 14 and 12, so this is where they grew up. We have great friends and memories here, and they call it home, I call it home.
He also spent 3 years in Muskegon, where he was part of an IHL Turner Cup championship team in 1989. A year later, he became the first Korean-born player ever in the National Hockey League. A year after that, the first to win a Stanley Cup and have his name engraved in hockey's holy grail.
Your life dream, your goal, winning a Stanley Cup and hoisting that over your head, that was a true blessing.
His coaching career took off when he was hired as an assistant by the Grand Rapids Griffins in the summer of 2005. Your thoughts when you come back into this building?
This is where it all started.
He remains the longest tenured coach in Griffins history, 9 years under 4 different head coaches, winning a cup with his last. The first one, too.
Yes, that was an exciting time. That was a tough one to get.
Now, in just 4 years, he has helped South Korea earn a spot in the top tier of international hockey.
I don't think anybody thought we'd get to where we were, where we are now.
And sometimes Jim can't believe any of it.
There's moments where you sit back and you think, wow, I'll be standing here in the Olympics. It's exciting. It's going to be exciting.
And well-deserved. Great coach, great person. Jim's team will be in a group with powerhouses Canada and the Czech Republic, as well as Switzerland, whom they'll open with on Saturday, February 17th.
So we'll have a little bit of a hockey theme going with our Guardian Grit today. And I'd like to take the opportunity to next introduce and welcome Mr. Paek to our stage. And our own, this morning, the format we're using is we're going to have our own Mr. Andy Steger will be spending some time doing an interview with Mr. Paek and getting his ideas on grit, on Guardian Grit. So at this time, please give Mr. Paek a gritty Guardian welcome.
This side? So, go ahead. You wanted to say something.
Can I just start by taking a selfie?
That's a good idea. This is your way to identify with the students, right?
So, I think this is a great honor for me to speak in front of everyone here. A lot of you I see in the hallways. I'm always around the school. I don't know what I'm doing here, but no, I see a lot of you guys, and you come up and say hello, Mr. Paek, and it makes me feel great. So, but if I can start, if we can get a selfie, everybody could try to get in. Yeah, what? Come on, let's see some. Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Hey, before you sit down, so here's the thing about hockey, right? Like, hockey's the only sport that I know of where, like, you can have a fight, like, built into the game. It's, like, kind of part of the thing. So this will be hard for you to imagine, but let's imagine that I'm a really scrawny Korean kid, and I've just started playing hockey. I can kind of skate, but now I'm in the first Olympic game, and I'm going up against some kid from like Calgary, Canada, or something, right? And he grew up, like hunting bison and eating it raw by the handful, and he's just this big honking guy with this nasty beard and everything, and like I accidentally trip him, and he falls, and now he's coming at me, right? How do I not get killed? What would you say? What do I do?
Throw the first punch, I guess.
Throw the first punch. Okay, you heard it here, folks.
Well, when those things happen, hockey's a team sport. So basically, if that guy's coming up, you'll see 5 guys behind him. So now he's got to fight 5 guys.
Okay.
So that's what a strong team is all about, and so you don't have to go up one-on-one against these guys.
So just survive for like 3 seconds. That's your goal. Just like this, and then your teammates
yeah,
come after him.
Coax him in, and don't drop your gloves, Turtle. Now he'll get the penalty. You take advantage of the power play, and then you win the game.
Nice.
So there you go.
Sounds good.
If you don't mind, I'd like to mention something. We're talking about grit this week, and last week I spent a lot of time at the school here watching the varsity girls play, and boy, oh boy, that's grit. Great job, girls. I was absolutely fantastic. And as a coach, you're there as a parent, but also as a coach, you see what they've gone through, all the injuries and the hardships, the weather, everything like that, and they came out never giving up, perseverance, and did a fantastic job. So I'm very proud of the girls. It was fantastic.
Yeah, so good.
Well, come on.
So, I'm sorry, I had never heard of you before a couple of weeks ago. I wasn't a hockey fan. So you played in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh is kind of that town near Cleveland where I grew up, where we don't really talk about them. And we didn't have a hockey team, really, so I'm sorry. You're
That's
famous,
okay.
but not to me, until this week. But, so what I did to find out who this famous person was that I was interviewing is I looked at Wikipedia, of course, and it says there, like, I think in the first paragraph, that you racked up 155 penalty box minutes in your NHL career. Is there like a prize for that? Or how does that work? What happened? Did you just trick people?
You're not supposed to say this in front of my kids. But as everyone has a role on a team. And, Mario Lemieux, he was our star player. He scored all the goals. So he needed a supporting cast. And my role was to play defense and be a good team guy. So, like you were talking about the weaker player, if someone picks on him, I'm there to kind of stand
You're
up
the enforcer.
be a policeman, kind of, police the ice and a lot of those situations. I never instigated any of this. I have always, it was always my role as a team player to protect my teammates, and need be, because that was a part of the game back then, 100 years
In
ago.
philosophy, we talk about the just war theory. So this is like the just fist fight theory of hockey, right? I don't start it, but if it has to happen, I'm there.
And, and the thing with hockey, and I don't endorse fighting at all. It's, but okay, it's done. Now let's get back to it. Let's just play hockey now. Okay, you got your energy out. I got my energy out. Now we go back to playing a skilled hockey game.
It's kind of funny that they sit you in timeout like a 4-year-old in a professional sport, right?
It works.
Hey, you need timeout. Go sit there. Think about what
Absolutely.
you've done.
But a lot of that time too is, you know, if you get a penalty and you're hurting your teammates.
Yeah.
So you're putting them at a disadvantage. So you play with composure, you play hard, you play with grit, allowing your team to be successful.
Yeah, good stuff. So this is career week, and you've had a stellar career. But what I understand is that you've managed to have a really stellar career, and you've done something that I think won't be true for 100% of YIS graduates, and that is, if I'm not mistaken, you didn't go to college. So I guess maybe the first question is...
Well, the key word is yet.
Yet, I see.
I
Right
didn't
on.
go to college yet,
Yeah. After you get done paying for your kids' college, then maybe you'll go. Yeah.
if I have any left, yes.
So do you have Korean parents?
You know, I grew up in a Korean family, the Korean culture. We immigrated to Canada when I was at a very young age, but still we had that Korean tradition. I played the piano, I played the cello, right? You see, everybody knows. And education was very important. Being well-rounded, being involved in many different things was very important in my family. But the thing that, you know, yes, I didn't go to college, but when I first signed my first professional contract, in my contract, after I retire, I had 4 years of tuition and books paid for. Cool. So education has always been an important part of my family and in my life also.
So did your mom and dad like come to your contract signing and say, make sure that they put the college in there and the books, ask for the books too, Jimmy?
Yeah, because it was expensive. Books are expensive, those textbooks. But no, you know, I knew it was important to my parents. You know, before my father passed away, he always, every time I'd see him, I'd come back home. How's school going? Did you go to school? Did you enroll? So that was very important to him, that I did get my education. And I did get a few classes here and there, but I was a little preoccupied in playing professional sports.
Yeah. So to introduce grit again and kind of your perspective on it, I think Professor Duckworth mentioned passion and perseverance. You've kind of, in your career and in your leadership and your coaching, you've broken it down into 3 Ps. Tell us like what your 3 Ps are and kind of give us a sketch really quick of what they mean before we dig into them.
You know, I just watching Angela and hearing about it, as leaders, we always read and listen to TED Talks and people, but I know every one of you in here have grit. But to frame it, it just, yeah, I do have grit. But before I even heard about Angela is what I tried to do with my hockey team here in Korea is I called it the 3 Ps: passion, practice, perseverance. And that's kind of became a philosophy of our team. And so we talked about the 3 Ps. But as we move along the process, I keep adding Ps to this thing. So, because with those 3 Ps, you also need to plan. How are you going to do all this? And there's another P, purpose, and then going through the process of the P of Pyeongchang. So as you move on, the Ps, but the main ingredient, the bottom denominators here are you have to have passion, you have to practice, and you have to persevere. Those are the 3 key elements, I believe.
Great. So let's break that down. We'll spend a little bit of time talking about each of those 3 elements of grit from your perspective and talk about how they've worked out in your career. So first, passion. Passion. This is like a major buzzword now. It's something that we hope to have. Some of us have now and others don't. But before we get into all that, you have some siblings, and you've taken very different career trajectories than your siblings. Introduce us briefly to the people you grew up with and what they're doing.
Well, my older sister, she's a doctor in Toronto. Very smart, but she's my nuna, so she's my sister. I don't know if she's smart or if she does well, but hearing from my friends and that are in the medical business, and she's one of the pioneers at the hospital where she laser surgery in gynecology. So, like, wow, my sister, she's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't realize how smart she was or how motivated she was, because she didn't even get her undergrad degree before she went to med school. So she just has MD after her name. She doesn't have all these other letters. So that's how dedicated and that's how smart she had. You talk about the growth mindset. She wanted to get better and she wanted to learn. You know, okay, and I'll be honest with you, like in school, it's like, hey, let's see what you did on your lab and let's copy. And let's, right? No?
No.
Good for you. But it was her, in her science, in doing the labs, she wanted to do those experiments. She wanted to learn. That's her growth mindset she had, and allowed her to become such a successful, prominent doctor in Toronto. And it's not about the money, because if she went to the States, she could make 10 times more. So it's about her passion for the medical field and her growth mindset and wanting to get better and better.
Yeah, that's great. So, a professional hockey player and a instructor and MD in the same family. Pretty.
Well,
incredible.
don't forget, I also have a lawyer. There's an Esquire
Oh,
in the family,
nice,
my little
nice.
sister.
You got everything covered.
Yeah, and then I have
So when you get in a
cousins and-
fight, your sister can patch the person up that you beat up, and then your brother can defend you in court.
Absolutely. I have everything. I have cousins all in the medical field, from head to toe, from the mind to, my sister-in-law, she's an accountant, so she can take care of the taxes. So everything's set.
Yeah,
Everything's
you got
set.
it all. You got it all. That's awesome. So passion. Let's break this down a little bit. So I can imagine that passion evokes the idea of like, oh, you must have passion, students. It probably evokes a degree of liberation for some people, right? Some people think, oh, awesome. We live in a world now in which I can follow and pursue my passion. I don't have to have, if I don't want, a 9-to-5 job. If that sounds awful to me, I can do something else. I can follow my passion. I can even create and carve out a career based on my passion. But then there's probably other students who are like, oh, okay, passion. Yeah, I have no idea what that is. Chess, I guess. Swimming. They have maybe a passion, but they look at it and think, how am I gonna make a career out of that? Or if I do pursue like what my mom and dad want me to do with my life, be a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, am I abandoning my passion? Am I not being a passionate human being? So help us just demystify the notion of passion. Do you have to work and earn money off of your passion? How does this work?
I think a lot of kids in here are, I was very fortunate. I was very blessed at an early age. I had an environment. I was in an environment in Canada where everyone plays hockey, to have that passion, be allowed to have that passion. It's on TV, so you grow to love it, you play it, and it's like, okay, hey, this is great. I really enjoy it, but it's hard to find your passion also. I bet you the majority of the kids in here, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what I'm passionate about. And you have to be realistic too. I'm passionate about sleeping. What am I going to do with that? You be realistic.
Right.
That's not, but if you do have a passion, I know, and if you believe in it, that's the key is if you have a passion, you have to believe in it and make other people believe in you, especially your parents. Because I know growing up in a Korean family, you got to listen to mom and dad. But I like hockey. Athletics in a Korean family is very difficult. Mm-hmm. But I convinced them because I believed I wanted to be a hockey player. And I showed them and I convinced them that, hey, I want to be a hockey player. Please support me. And they believed in me. Mm-hmm. And they supported me. And, thank God everything came out roses. But I didn't put all my eggs in one basket either. Mm-hmm. I always had a backup plan, if you want to say. I had education. I wanted to, you know, if I didn't get into the hockey field, if I had an injury or something that's career ending, you know, I wanted to be a chiropractor. So I had that in my back of my
So you
mind.
could fix up hockey players.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because that's what I knew, you know, from all the injuries that I've had.
You spent so much
So-
time there that you figured.
You know, exactly. So you always have to have some backup plans. I know everybody has a lot of different passions, but don't close any doors. It's all in moderation, really, in the sense that if you go, I think you can do, and everything helps each other. Like, if you do well in school, and I truly believe in this. I did well in high school, I did well on the ice. Because I'm learning discipline, I'm learning to do my homework, I'm sacrificing going out and partying or whatever it is to study, which allowed me to train my mind on the ice to be attention to detail.
Right,
So
be a
everything
student of the
kind of
game,
works
yeah.
together. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I read this guy named Cal Newport, right? And he takes a little bit of a contrarian view about passion. And he says, forget follow your passion. That's bad advice. He says, instead, get really good at something, and then you will have satisfaction and enjoyment and what people kind of call passion after you've applied the hard work and the grit and the focus. So what would you say to him if he said, don't tell these kids to follow their passion. Tell them to work hard, and then they'll grow passionate about something.
Well, it's all hand in hand. When you have passion about something, you don't really work hard because you love it. That's what I felt. Like, for example, when I was, I had in my mind I'm going to be a professional hockey player, and how am I going to go about doing it? And I learned from my dad that we had to do some off-ice training. So I'd wake up in the morning, I'd go and hop on my bike. We lived out in the country, up and down the hills for 2 hours. I'd come home, I'd go to the weight room, up and down, full body workout for 3 hours. Eat some lunch, go to the rink, skate for 2 hours with my buddies and have a skate on the ice. Then come home, have dinner, and then run while my dad was chasing me on his bike. So, that was a daily routine in the summertime when I didn't have school.
Is that how you convinced your parents, like, this is okay? Dad, if you let me be a hockey player, you can, like, chase me on your bike.
Absolutely, and he
threaten
loved
me.
it. He loved it. So then also, I would vary it up too. My mother would drive me to the school parking lot, and I'd push the car back and forth the parking lot, because I saw a football player do it. So, hey, let me try this, and it was great. So try that. But now sports and your workout training has become so specific. So like when I went to the gym, I was working out like a bodybuilder because that's what everybody did.
Right.
And try to follow. But that built a great foundation for me to allow me to continue on and learn and adapt as I moved along.
So for you, anyway, it was your love of hockey that got you to where you're like, I'm willing to get up and be chased by my dad and push cars around a parking lot and all that.
Absolutely. And my whole life revolved around hockey at that time. And then, like I said, I was very fortunate that I did have that passion for it. I ate with my left hand thinking that will help me on the ice. I wore leg weights all day long because I needed my leg strength. Those type of things. I didn't play soccer. I played foot hockey. Those type of things that just revolved around hockey. But also, I didn't lose sight of my education. I'm going to school and doing my homework, playing the piano, and all the other things that I had to do also to be successful.
How about for people who recognize I'm not going to be paid at doing this thing that I'm like super passionate about? Either I don't have the body to be an NHL player, or I can't jump, so I can't be a basketball player, or whatever the thing is. Would you say that people are copping out if they work their 9-to-5 job and then they pursue their passion as a avocation, as a hobby?
I think it's up to the individual and what they believe in and what they believe success is. That's the key. What do you believe your success is? And if it's and you're only limited to what you think you can't do. So, and I keep telling my players that for so many years, the Korean hockey player was small, too weak. They can't play against Canada, who are bigger. You gave that example. I said, no. What do you believe? And you have to believe in yourself that you're able to conquer. And it's amazing what your mind can do in the process of being successful. And that's the whole key, is you have to believe in yourself and convince other people to believe you can do it.
So let's give some things away here for a minute or two here. I've got a randomly selected list of people here, and we have some things that we can throw at them. Let's pick a random freshman, shall we? How about Daniel Kong? Is Daniel around? Where are you, Daniel? Don't be embarrassed. This is your chance. Where are you? Okay, hi, Daniel. So here's your question. Ready? How many minutes did our esteemed guest serve in the penalty box when he was in the NHL? Was it 45, 95, 155, or 205?
155.
155 is correct. Do you want to chuck this out there, Adam?
I don't know if it's going to work.
Okay. The second question, let's have, how about Francis Park? Where are you, Francis? Where are you? There you are. Okay, there he is. Okay, so quick question for you. What is the name of the trophy that you get for winning the NHL? Is it the Lombardi Trophy? Is it the Jules Rimet Trophy? Is it the Commissioner's Trophy? Is it the Stanley Cup? Did you get it? Stanley Cup it is. All right.
There you go.
These
Good
are
job.
easy questions. You're like, why aren't all of our quizzes this easy? Good. So, and then finally, how about this? How about Allison Ree? Where are you? Over here somewhere, it must be, huh? Hi, Allison. So, Allison, how about this one? What are our esteemed guests' 3 Ps? You're a junior, so I won't make it multiple choice. What are the 3 Ps?
Passion,
Got it?
perseverance,
Yep.
practice.
You did it. All right, cool. Here you go.
I gave it. Oh, okay.
So, good. All right, let's move on then, shall we, to practice. This is the one that you inserted into Ducksworth's paradigm here, practice. So, I was having an argument recently with my 10-year-old son, and we were arguing about, in the NBA, who is the National Basketball Association, that's an American league. Anyway, we were arguing about who in the NBA has had the best work, who's the hardest worker in the NBA. And of course, being from Akron, Ohio, I said LeBron James. And he said, it's actually Kobe Bryant. And then we got on YouTube and we compared like their workout regimen videos and stuff like that to see like who was working harder. And granted, LeBron was like doing all kinds of wimpy things like Pilates and things. And, what? You're doing Pilates? Anyway, so my son made a good case that it was actually Kobe Bryant. He was in the gym, kind of like you. He was pushing stuff around when nobody was watching, and he was determined to be the hardest worker in the NBA. And it got me thinking, my takeaway kind of from that experience was, like, talent is necessary in order to be, like, not average but great, right? Like, you got to have some talent, right? I can't just show up tomorrow and be like, I want to be an NHL hockey player, right? That ship has sailed. But talent is important. But it got me thinking that the difference between being like just really great and being like legendary, like Kobe Bryant status, Michael Jordan status, Jim Paek status, is practice, is work ethic, and this idea of just doing it and doing it over and over and over again. Do you think that I'm onto something there?
Practice is a key ingredient, but the key to practice is quality, not quantity. Practice with a purpose. That's what I believe the key is. Have a purpose in what you do. And then that little detail, that little part of the process of that skill will get better. And then you continue and grow and grow. But for example, I go to the driving range, and I sit there and I hammer balls and see how hard I can go. and you can hit the ball.
Right.
There's no purpose in that. Because when I go on the field on
Whatever you call it, the
course on the course,
Yeah.
my balls go left and right,
Right.
and all over the place, and my score's not very great. So, but if you practice with a purpose, what I tried to adapt and what I learned about, there's two zones. One called the learning zone, and one called the performance zone. And each of these zones you learn. But where we get better and develop our skill, and I truly believe, is in that learning zone. So that's practice. And in practice, you come out of your box. Try something different. Find how to get that skill better by doing the little process by process. Now, when it comes to the game, all those hours and all that quality time you put into that practice, into that skill, during the performance zone in the game, you execute it. It works. Now the coach says, great job. You said, team, now the bar rises. Oh, hey, that feels great. The coach said I did a great job. Now I want to practice harder. Now what else can I practice to get better? So it's kind of that circle of success kind of deal where you practice your detail, you get better in practice, you perform it in a game, now you get confirmation, now you want to practice again. Because it feels good when someone says, hey, great job.
Right, so I almost hear you saying that there's a little bit of a science to practice. It's not just pure like, oh, I'm going to put in the hours, but it's like focused, and it takes the game apart, or whatever the skill is you're learning apart piece by piece, and identifies how do I move the dial on this particular skill?
Absolutely, and I'm a true believer of learning the part to the whole kind of thing, and I think it's very important because it gets overwhelming. There's so many things that you need to learn. So you say math class. Okay, kids, here's all the formulas for the year, learn them.
Right.
Whoa, that's overwhelming.
Yeah.
But if you teach the process, you teach step by step, you'll understand it, you'll get better at it, you'll have success, and then you'll move on to the next one.
I wonder what the role of coaching is in this. Like, forget even sports for a moment, and just how do you allow somebody to kind of come alongside of you and look at your game and your skill set and put their finger on a place where you can grow, right? Like, is that necessary? Should everybody have a coach in their field?
And that's the important part of growing, is you have to have good mentors, teachers, coaches to help you excel, to help you grow in your skill or your talents. That's very important. Surround yourself in an environment where you can grow. Ask questions. That's very important. Always ask questions. How can I do this better? How can I do that better? And watch. A lot of things I didn't learn from my coach either. I learned from my peers and watched them play and go, aha, okay, now. And then, so the environment is very important, and learning from everybody else. You can never stop learning.
Seems like you have to have humility to be able to be like, hey, watch me do this thing that I'm pretty good at in general, but probably have hidden weaknesses at.
Absolutely. There's the there's the wise, where you're experienced, and there's the simple person who doesn't have that experience but wants to learn from the wise, and that's very important. And then you also have the fool who thinks they know it all, right? So, and then they don't want to listen. So please don't be the fool. I know we're not always the wisest, but we can be simple and we can have humility and learn from the wise all the time.
Yeah, that's great stuff. All right, let's give some more things away for a second here, shall we? Let me pull up some more random students. We need a senior, don't we? How about Sue Lee? Sue, sorry, you've been selected. How about this? Growth mindset. Ready, Sue? Which of the following is not part of the growth mindset? You ready? Failure is a friend. Talent trumps everything. Skills come through practice, and hard work helps.
Oh, which is not.
Which is not part of the growth mindset?
Talent trumps everything.
You are correct. Wow, you want to toss her your little guy there? I'm sure we have some more here too. Let's see. How about we go back to a freshman? Where is JoJo Paek? All right, JoJo, are you ready for this? What did we just say is the difference between? Okay, let me back up. So, if the difference between being good and being a star might be talent, then what is the difference between being a star and a legend?
Oh.
You got this.
Practice?
I think that's an acceptable answer. What do you think? Let's ask the panel of judge.
Perfect.
Okay, he says it's good. All right, cool. We'll come back to some more prizes later. So let's go on then finally to perseverance in the remaining time we had.
Well, before
Go
we
ahead.
go on to perseverance, we talk about perseverance a little bit, but I have this clip. I saw it on YouTube. I don't know if, I'm pretty sure a lot of you have seen this clip. It's a 4-minute clip. Can we cue that clip?
He's got it. He's got it.
Got it? Yes. Yes.
Sheep follow the leader. They follow the herd. They don't know where they are going. Many times they are led to the slaughterhouse, but they keep following. They don't lead. They don't use their mind. A lion leads. It's about having the courage to stand and fight for your life, having the strength to go bravely in your own direction, even if others walk away. You tread your own path. Only you know what's best for you. Only you know what path to take. Only you know your courage, your strength, your heart. Everyone has the heart of the lion inside of them. Let it out. Let it scream out of you. Like the lion, unleash the beast in you.
Attitude is what you think, what you do, and what you feel about yourself. Attitude is everything in life. Guess why? Whether you rise or fall, everything is based upon the attitude that you showed up at that moment. Your attitude determines your altitude. Listening carefully. I've been through tough times. I've experienced it, and I want you to know that it wasn't my money that brought me this far. It was my attitude towards life. It was my attitude to keep going when the going gets tough. That is the lion attitude I'm talking about. The question is, what is your attitude towards life? What do you think of yourself as I'm talking to you now? Do you think of yourself as how God thinks of you? Or you think of yourself as how friends and family members think of you? You need the lion attitude. The attitude to take charge of your destiny. You need the lion attitude that says, I can. You need the lion attitude. The attitude that says, I will, because I'm bold enough to fight. You need the lion attitude if you are standing in for greatness. Real lions, they are hungry when the time comes for their mission. Lions are not followers. They are leaders who lead the rest of the animals. Become a lion. Be fearless. Don't talk. Walk the talk. Real lions, they demonstrate who they are. A lion does not seek respect. They command respect and authority because they know they should be respected. Be a lion. A sheep follows the leader. A lion leads. It's about having the courage to stand and fight for your life. Having the strength to go your own direction, even if no one believes in you. Follow your heart. Only you know what is best for you. Only you know the path to take. You have the heart of a lion inside you. Let it out. Don't fit in. Stand out and use your gift.
The lion is certain. There are no maybes with the lion. This is my decision, and I will attack until the outcome is mine. No one will push me around.
Wow. I feel like a couple observations. One, I think that kid just needs a hug now. And secondly, I need the link to that video so I can show that to my kids right before I tell them to clean their room.
Yeah. I watch that and I go, wow. He wasn't the biggest kid. And it was one versus how many. And I don't know if you've ever had tug of war or played tug of war. That's pretty hard. And to go for that long, but he never gave up. That's perseverance. Yeah. And also there's perseverance through failure. You know, I went to an art exhibit yesterday, and it doesn't matter if it's sport, but this is an artist saying that you have to fail in order to succeed. So, you know, and I constantly hear that from everyone. Failure is not failure or give up. It's a learning experience. And that's the attitude you need to have. Like, so we don't fail, we learn. And from those, we get better and better. How do we get better? The failure is if you do it again. Don't do it again.
Yeah, that's great stuff. So yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, is that relationship between failure and perseverance. You know, even in the tech world now, they say that innovation happens when you learn to fail fast and not be afraid of failure, but actually go seek it out. I feel like probably in this room, failure usually has a much more negative connotation than that. But so, how about this? Is there a distinction between, like, the team wins and I win? In other words, like, if we lose 3-0 in soccer, could I have a team loss and at the same time have a personal win? What's the dynamic there?
Well, I feel, and you know, and I didn't play many individual sports, or I was always a team sport, and if the team won, I won. If the team lost, I lost. That was the mentality I had. And, you know, the winning and the losing, you have to be realistic too. Okay, that's the thing. What is success? What's a win to your team? And so we played in the Olympics. We didn't win one game. But in my heart, I know we won because we gave it our all. We left everything on the ice. We supported each other. We won. That's in my books, in my heart. You know, other people might see just numbers and wins and loss columns. But when you can look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I done my best. I did my best. I gave it my all. I have nothing left in the tank. That's a victory in my books.
That's great stuff. I imagine that probably students, it's hard for them to get to the place where they could say, my teacher gave me a C, but I'm giving myself an A, right? Yeah. Probably no one has ever said that to themselves in this room. But it seems like that's kind of like to take yourself out of the classroom for a minute and just say, personally, like, according to my standards and what I needed to do to grow, I crushed it, regardless of what anybody else says. That's kind of what you're going for, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's believing in yourself and believing what you do, because you can only answer to yourself. You know, you can't lie to yourself. So that to me, if you can look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I did my very best. I couldn't give any more. I tried. And this is what the outcome is, but I still won.
So we're almost out of time, but we have time for maybe one, possibly two exquisite, top-shelf questions for our guest. So if you have one, we have a microphone that we can bring to you, but raise your hand and ask him a really good question. Would you? What's on your mind? Don't be bashful. Is there a student that has, here we go. Here's a couple of seniors that are being brave. Come on down here.
Wow, you get a prize. You get a prize. Where's a prize here? For having the guts to, what do we want?
Just raise your hand and you win. Amazing.
Team Korea t-shirt.
Nice. Okay, Dora.
Dora, you get one too.
Dora, go ahead. What you got?
Hi. So, my question was, what is the hardest thing you've ever been through, like to persevere through? And can you explain that situation and how you overcame that?
You know, and that life isn't easy. Hockey's not easy. School's not easy. It's really hard. But the toughest thing was when you play on a team. I just remember we were in last place. Every game that I'd go to, it was we would lose. The environment, I had bad teammates, and I'd sit at the end of my bed and say, you know, in tears, like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. That's hard when you're constantly pushed down all the time. How do you get back up? Well, you know, you have to have faith. And God gave me an opportunity to go to a first place team. And we ended up winning the championships. So now I'm re-energized, and I played a few years after that. So, you know, you have to have faith that things will get better. And the change of environment gives you energy because you still love the sport. I still love hockey. And that's what helped me get out of that situation. And just the change of an environment, which is in a positive environment. That's what I needed. I needed to be positive, and I need to have attitude, a great attitude. And half the battle is having great attitude, waking up every morning and saying, I'm going to succeed today. I'm going to choose greatness today to have that attitude. So, good question. How's your ankle? Good? Okay.
So our fearless leadership is giving me the we're done sign. So let's take the opportunity to thank Jim Paek for being with us. Yeah, what a pleasure. So if you see Mr. Paek in the hallway and he stops you and says, hey, you, 3 Ps, what are they? Don't embarrass us. Be able to spit out passion, practice, and perseverance at the drop of a hat. And then he'll give you a little keychain or something probably, right? You better keep a bunch of those with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but hey, I'd just like to thank you guys for having me here and giving you the opportunity. But the key here is believe in yourself. You can accomplish anything you want to accomplish if you believe in it. And make sure you convince other people around you. So have a great week. Thanks again for everything. See you soon.
Thank you, Jim, for sharing with us. Before you leave the stage, we have a gift for you to thank you for giving your time and opening your life to us and just sharing those experiences. And we also have a gift for your wife, Courtney. Is Courtney here? Upstairs. You think you can throw it that far?
I can't throw it this far.
Right
thank you.
For both of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We also want to take an opportunity to thank the co-chairs who are coordinating this whole week, who put this assembly together, who are working so hard still to make this week so beneficial for all of you. So I'd like to recognize the co-chairs of the Career Focus Week. So Betty Chung, Ingrid Elizondo, and Bethany Dawson. Could you come forward, please? We have something for you as well. Thank you. These ladies have worked so hard to put all this together. Thank you, Betty. And Ingrid, thank you so much. Okay, one more